Get started. Okay, so welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us on this. Well, it's Wednesday morning here in Ontario. I know from looking at the discussion board, a lot of you are here. Some of you are overseas, so it's a different time zone. I know Rajmeet said she's studying, joining us at night. Is there anybody else here today who's in a different time zone right now? Okay, so what we're going to do today, Eduardo and I are going to introduce ourselves. We're going to get to know each other a little bit. We're going to go over kind of our plan for the course. We've got two instructors this semester, me for the first 5 weeks, and then Eduardo for the remaining 8 weeks of the course. And we're going to talk a little bit about the technology we're going to use from a really high level and just play around with it. With a couple really simple exercises. Nothing too complicated. We'll kind of ease into things today. Hello, Gurpreet, and welcome. So a couple of things we put an announcement up on Blackboard, and a few things we'd like you to do, please. So number one is under the discussion board. You can find the link here, and under class forum, there's a little getting to know you thread. So if you can reply, and we've just posted a few basic questions here so that we can kind of get to know you a little bit, and you'll get to know us. The other item you'll need to complete is here under assignments. This is the academic integrity policy. So in order to see your week 1 folder, you'll need to review this item. And you can either say, I agree and submit, or you can say, I disagree. And if you disagree, then you'll want to email Eduardo and myself to talk about your concerns around the rules. So we'll come back and talk about this a little bit more later on. So for starters, Eduardo and I like to just introduce ourselves. You can find our contact info here. And Eduardo has joined us this morning, at least for the first part of class. And again, I'll be teaching really today's lesson and the next 4 weeks. And then Eduardo will be taking over to complete the course kind of from late June through August. So I'll introduce myself a little bit, tell you a little bit about me and my background, and Eduardo will do the same, and then we'll kind of take a 1,000-foot view of the course. So I've taught a few of you before, but a lot of us are strangers, which is why if you can introduce yourself in the discussion board, that's great. So my name's Rich. And I've been a web developer for quite a while now, actually 22 years as a web developer, done lots of different stuff over that time. But most of the time I've worked for that guy, myself, I've been my own boss. So I have a small business called In Front of the Net. And I've done lots of different work through the years as a web developer. Lots of .com sites, built social media apps, e-commerce, worked in the not-for-profit sector, pretty much anything under the sun I've done in 22 years. So I love this job. I'm always challenged to solve problems, always learning new things. There's lots of job opportunities. We'll talk about this a bit more. The skills are portable. Often we can have flexible work hours and work location. Building web applications is fun and not a stuffy career at all. So how did I get into this? Web developers are not born, although I do have some good genes. There's my mom. She just turned 80. My mom was actually a programmer for IBM way back in the 1960s. She was one of the first female programmers to work for IBM in Canada. So there we were on holiday a couple years ago. So you're thinking I've got a degree in computer science. I do have a university degree, but it's actually in political science. And I also have a master's degree in education, which I finished recently from Ontario Tech University. So, how did I become a web developer? Well, after I graduated university, I did some traveling. I moved to South Korea, where my first teaching job, I was actually teaching English. Eventually, I came back to my hometown of Toronto. I went back to school, took an IT program, 9 months, came out of school, started looking for a job, put on my developer hat, and I went to work. So we did work in the healthcare industry, in transportation. We even worked, yeah, oh, that's cool too, Marilo. What did you study there?
Hi, I think it's easier using my mic.
Sure.
Cool. Sorry to interrupt you.
No,
Uh,
anytime.
awesome. Yeah, it was like 6 years ago,
Yep.
and then I did some courses for software engineering, and it was like I didn't complete the course because it's like a mix between my university from my home country and the university here in Canada, and then I took like 1 year. And then after that, I returned to my home country to finish my program. But yeah, I studied software engineering.
Great.
Program.
That's great.
Awesome. Really good university. Oshawa is a really nice city to live.
Yep.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's great.
Awesome.
So, what can I tell you about being a web developer? Well, I got to take on projects that I liked. I had a good boss, made some friends, got to make my own hours. I got to work from a home office, and every couple of weeks I got paid, which sounds like a good job, and it was. So, what happened? Well, we built an application in diabetes management. It was really popular, but we had an issue with it, which is my boss never actually figured out how anybody would pay for this app that we built. So he sunk all his money developing an app, but never figured out how to make any money. Eventually, his company ran out of money and I was unemployed. All the developers got laid off. I started looking for work again. By now I had some experience and people started asking me if I could build websites and web applications for them. I said, yep, put on my developer hat, went back to work, and now I was the boss, which was great, right? Being your own boss, there's probably a number of you in here who someday are going to run your own business. Okay? So you get to be your own boss. You often can work from home. You take on projects that you're passionate about. You get to learn new things. You can make a decent income. You keep your own schedule. So lots of benefits to running your own business. There are some downsides, however. Those regular paychecks, those are gone. When the economy is slow, it can be hard to find work. You don't have benefits like health insurance, or you don't get paid vacations. And it can be stressful because it's always up to you to make sure you're selling enough work and keeping your clients happy. So some of my clients, I've worked in the retail sector, not-for-profit sector, transportation, real estate, engineering and construction, among others. So when you're self-employed, some of the challenges are not having those steady paychecks, trying to budget your money when your income varies, trying to make plans. You spend a lot of time working when your friends and family are relaxing. Typical day would look something like this. You're going to answer a lot of emails, sometimes dozens of emails in a day. You got to do your design and development work. You get to answer the phone. You have to quote on new projects, plan out your upcoming projects, play tech support for your customers, and at the same time, stay on top of new trends and technology. So you're always busy. So how do you succeed? What kind of skills do you need? You got to be able to learn things independently, right? No matter what we teach you here at Georgian, the technology's change. So once you're out working, you're constantly going to have to update your knowledge and your skills. You got to solve problems, listen to what your customers need. And I'm big on this. And when I give you assignments, some of you have probably had classes with Jarrett before, and Jarrett loves to say, the number one mistake developers make is not paying attention to the requirements carefully. You do have to manage your time and meet deadlines. So this is what it looks like in the real world. So about 12, 13 years ago, I was doing work for Walmart Canada. We worked on part of their online photo center. We had a new project with a very firm timeline. And the timeline had to be firm because every Tuesday night, Walmart sent out an electronic newsletter to 85,000 subscribers. And in that newsletter, they promised the date when their new website would be ready. So think about the day before that project is supposed to go live, and suddenly I contact my project manager at Walmart and say, site's not ready. You know, we know you've promised it to 85,000 people, but the site isn't going to be ready. They're going to say to me, we're going to go find another supplier if you can't deliver on time. So we're going to be pretty firm with you in our class about you submitting your projects on time. In terms of job opportunities, I did a quick search this morning on Indeed, threw in the terms web developer in Ontario, and I found 21, almost 2,200 open jobs. That's just here. Keep in mind, you could take your skills anywhere, right? You could take them here, 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 here. You basically need a decent laptop and an internet connection, and you can do this job. Salaries, this is the Ontario average salary for a web developer. So you can make a pretty decent living doing this. So you might wonder, if I liked my job, why am I in a WebEx session with all of you on a Wednesday morning? Fair enough. So I started teaching here part-time. That was actually way back in 2010. And I've been teaching full-time at George, and this is now my 10th year. And I love teaching. It's great. And I'm going to keep doing it. So that's a bit about me. But I'm only one half of your teaching team this semester. So maybe I'll turn it over to Eduardo. Eduardo, if you feel like, if you want to turn on your camera or share screen, turn it over to you.
Okay, sure. Thank you. Well, let me.
If you start sharing, my share will automatically turn off.
Okay, perfect. Okay, just 1 second. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Well, nice to meet you, everyone. A little bit about myself, although my introduction will be a little bit shorter. I'm Eduardo. I'll be your instructor for the second part of the course. I've been a software engineer for a little bit more than 9 years. I started developing applications since .NET Framework 2.1, I believe. And at that point, I remember that was the newest thing. I'm talking about 2010, around 2010. All my working experience has been mostly in the .NET Framework platform, although I do a little bit of other stuff. Apache Cordova, MuleSoft for integrations, Python. I've been doing JavaScript. And this is something that Rich mentioned. It is very important that you guys keep yourself an open mind. It is good to be an expert in one platform, but you have to expect that during your work, you will be dealing with other technologies. So it is important to be able to learn those technologies and to be open to learning new technologies. So yeah, that's a little bit about me professionally. I've been working for many organizations in 3 different countries. I am originally from Mexico. Another interesting fact is that my first teaching position was also teaching English back home in Mexico at the university. And then I was working for the city government in my hometown, developing a bunch of applications to serve the citizens, help them pay taxes, report problems around the city. So that was very interesting. An aspect of creating web applications is something that is very fulfilling for me, is the fact that a lot of people benefit from them. for example, if somebody is able to pay their taxes online because of the application that you made, that's something really fulfilling. Well, in terms of my education, I have a bachelor's degree. However, my major originally was in networking, computer networks. I found my love and passion for programming when I started looking for a co-op at the end of my bachelor's. And I found a lot of network related positions, but nothing really too interesting. Then I found another one that was programming related, and that's when I fell in love with .NET. And ever since, I've been doing programming in my entire professional career. Then I moved to the States to have a master's degree in software engineering from the University of Texas. I did that in 2014. I stayed in the States for about 4 years. And then recently in 2018, I moved to Canada and I started working for a company downtown called SoftChoice. They do e-commerce. And recently I moved to GHD, which is a digital consultancy company. And I've been working there ever since. And yep, that'll be about me.
All right, great. Thanks, Eduardo. Okay, I'm just going to re-enable my share. So we won't ask you to put your cameras on, but one thing that I think would help in terms of us getting to know you. So there is, as I mentioned, there is our discussion board and the class forum. So please, if you haven't already, please introduce yourself. About a quarter of the class has completed this so far. So please do this. The other thing that would help, I would recommend, is at least in your WebEx profile that you should be able to add an avatar. It would be nice if we walked past each other on the street, you'd recognize Eduardo and me, but we wouldn't recognize you. So you can do this, actually, I think on the WebEx website, if you sign in with your Georgian credential, it would allow you to upload an avatar. If you just go to georgiancollege.webex.com, I think you can sign in with your Office login. Can't require you guys to do it, but it would be nice, and I think will make the class a little more personal. So if you go into your own profile, it does allow you to upload a photo, which I'd strongly recommend. Be nice that your professors and your classmates actually kind of know who you are, especially since most people don't keep their cameras on during class. So I can't require it, but I'll highly recommend that. Okay, so I mean, it's your second year, so the layout of our course is going to be similar to the classes you've had in the past. So under course information, you can find our syllabus. We'll go over this, kind of our plan for the class. We've introduced ourselves, but some of you will be watching this video later. We also recorded last week, we recorded a little welcome video again where you can see both of us. So link to the discussion board and the academic integrity policy. So again, you'll need to review this item in order to see the week 1 folder in Blackboard. Our contact information is here under faculty info. So my email, link to the my WebEx room, and then Eduardo's email link to his WebEx room. And then inside of weekly learning is basically all of the main content. So under tools and resources, we'll be adding some things here. So this is the link for week 1 to 5, the WebEx room that we're in. And I also record all of the streams, and I'll upload the first 5 lessons to a playlist I've created on my YouTube channel. So if you want to go back and watch any of the lessons, or if you're studying on your own time, you're not joining us live at 11 a.m. for whatever reason, you can watch the screencasts here, and all the source code for the first 5 weeks will be on my GitHub account. And Eduardo will probably post his own links in here later. If you want an office hours appointment, there's a booking link here. You can book through here. And this will put the appointment in our account, both our calendars. Another few items here. We have a LinkedIn group for computer studies. Some of you may be members already. And we're constantly posting jobs, other relevant things for students in here, you know, LinkedIn learning courses, other resources, but lots of job opportunities. We post in here regularly, probably several times a week. So feel free to join the group. It's for any student in any Georgian computer studies program. Your links to download Visual Studio are here, but I think most of you would have Visual Studio from last semester, from your C# course. I assume most of you had Tom for C# last term. Is that right? Oh, you had Nital? Okay. Got it. So Tom or Nital. Also links for downloading SQL Server, which we won't need for a few weeks. And you'll also want the .NET Core SDK, the latest stable version, which is now version 5. Few other tools here. Adam, we were talking about Git earlier. Here are all your Git commands that you'll use over and over again. So they're posted on Blackboard for you to reference whenever you need them. Okay, so that's in tools and resources. So we've got a folder for each week. So again, the first 5 weeks I'll be teaching, and then the last 8 weeks Eduardo will be teaching. So I want to go over and just review the syllabus and how the plan for the class is going to work, our expectations, and we are happy to answer any questions that you have about how the class is going to work. Okay. If at any time you have a question, feel free to either turn on your mic or just use the chat feature in WebEx. Yeah, I've got a second screen up, so we're always keeping our eye on the chat. So we will be teaching live. We'll be delivering lessons. We'll try to start right at 11 o'clock on Wednesday. And some weeks we'll go till 2 o'clock. Other weeks we'll finish less time. Typically we'll teach for about 50 minutes, take a 10-minute break, and then come back. So our focus in this class is building enterprise level applications using Microsoft technology stacks, using ASP.NET with C# and Microsoft SQL Server. We're going to wrap some other technologies into the class as well. Git is going to be integral. We're going to be using Visual Studio. We're going to be using Microsoft's Azure cloud services as well for hosting and continuous deployment. And if we've got time, we're also going to integrate Stripe Payment Gateway. So we can look at how do we process payments in an online transaction site. So here are our emails here. Again, I'm teaching weeks 1 to 5. Eduardo's teaching weeks 6 to 13. If you need an appointment in week 1 to 5, I've got office hours Tuesday mornings from 10 to 12, and you can just use the booking link to book an appointment. Okay. So if you make an appointment and you don't need it, please cancel it so that we'll reopen the appointment slot for other students. Okay. And please only book one appointment at a time, because we've got limited time. If you're not available Tuesdays, but you need a one-on-one meeting at another time, send me an email and suggest a day and time when we can meet. So what can you expect from us? We're going to be prepared. We've both been teaching .NET for a while. So we have a plan as to what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the things we're doing in terms of real world .NET projects that we've been building in our careers. And even though we've both been working with ASP.NET, combined 30 years of experience, you're probably still going to ask us stuff we don't know because these technologies are always changing. So when you ask us stuff we don't know, we're going to say, great question, we don't know, but we'll find out and we'll get back to you. We're going to try and keep the course interesting for you. And by all means, we're open to constructive feedback. If you've got some suggestions how we can make the course better, please let us know. In terms of responses, we're not a 24/7 teaching helpline. So if you email us Monday to Friday, Typically, we'll get back to you we'll try to get back to you within 24 hours. Over the weekends, it's within 48 hours. So generally after 6 p.m., if you send me an email, you're probably not you'll get an email the next day. And if you send me an email over the weekend, you probably aren't going to get a response until Monday. Okay? So that's what you can expect from us. Here's what we expect from you guys. Participate in the weekly lessons. So it looks like about 60% of the class is here. That's great. You're going to get more out of the class if you're able to participate in real time, when you can ask us questions and you don't have to wait for an answer and you can interact with your peers. You are permitted to watch the video streams and do the course on your own time, as long as you're doing the work each week. Make sure you ask for help when you need it and get started early on your assignments so that you have time to come to us for help if you need. To get maximum marks, submit assignments on time, as there are late penalties for submitting late. There's no group work in this class. You do have to, for marks, you do have to do all your own work. Please make sure you check your student email regularly. This is the only way we have to get in touch with you. So here are the assignments and how they break down. So assignment 1A and B will be in the first half of the course. And then assignment 2, which is actually an extension of assignment 1, is broken down into 3 smaller parts. So this way you're working on the assignment regularly and handing in pieces of it rather than doing all of it at once. We have quizzes, review quizzes, almost most weeks in class. And those are worth about 2% each. So it'll be about 10 of them. And then some small labs or even small activities we do in class. And then your final exam, which is an online exam. There's no midterm exam in the class. Okay, you do need to earn a 50 in order to pass. So if you get a 45%, there's no makeup assignments that we hand out at the end of the semester to allow you to raise your grade. Okay, there's lots of opportunity to earn marks. Any questions so far, particularly about the assignments and the grading? Okay, if anything comes to mind, just throw it in the chat. So all your assignments, everything, our class is Wednesday, so all your assignments are due on Tuesdays at 5 o'clock. That's any labs, quizzes, or any parts of assignment 1 or 2. They're always due the day before class. Our late policy is a grade reduction of 20% per day. So if you hand in an assignment on a Wednesday and it's perfect, you'll get an 80%. Okay. If you need more time, please email us, but you need to have a valid reason to have more time. You know, if you're ill, a family emergency, something like that, you know, we understand. But, you know, because you need to debug your assignment, your computer's not working, you have other projects due, those aren't going to be valid reasons why we can give an extension. Okay, and again, there are no additional assignments given out at the end of the course. So if you don't do a quiz or a lab in May, you can't say, hey, can I submit this in August, 3 months later, and have it marked. So once that assignment is done, you have a few days to submit late with a penalty, but beyond that, your assignments can't be accepted. So I do need to spend a couple minutes talking about this because we deal with this every term. Everything we are grading has to be your own work. Okay? The minimum penalty, if you submit work that is not entirely your own, is a grade of 0 on the assignment. We do check your project, and your submissions are also subject to a code review. So that's where we have a one-on-one meeting and we ask you questions about your assignment, and you need to show and explain any of the work that you submit on your own. Okay. This is every semester in my classes, how many academic misconducts I've had to process. So last semester, there were 4 of them. 3 of them in this class in the fall. So this is when people gave assignments that clearly weren't their own work. They'd either copied from someone else in the class or they copied their assignment from the internet. Okay, you do have to do all your own work. So I'm going to put the link in the chat one more time. Pete, I'll come to your question in just a minute. That's a fair one. Okay. So if you haven't completed this item, which I'm just going to put in the chat again, please go into Blackboard now under assignments and have a look at the academic integrity policy that spells out the rules of what we are considering. We and the college consider your own work. And keep in mind here, you can use code you find online, but with these conditions. It's not more than 10% of your project. You've linked to it, and you've asked us by email before submitting the assignment. Hey, I found this piece of code in this YouTube video or this tutorial. Here's the link. Can I use it in my assignment? So you can use external code in that scenario. Okay, you also have to protect your code. And you understand that it's important that Eduardo and I want to know when you submit work, it's yours. So please make sure you complete this item. Okay, you'll need to complete it in order to see the week 1 folder. So I'll just accept that because then you'll be able to see it. And Pete, I'm going to come to your question. So your question is, okay, if the due date's 5 o'clock on a Tuesday, what happens if I submit after 5 o'clock? Well, I mean, if you submit at 5:02, are we going to give you a late penalty? No, but there's a late penalty. Let's say you submit at midnight. Well, then there is a deduction because you've basically taken 7 more hours than all of your classmates have to do the same work. So it's not reasonable that you get marked on the same assessment. So the late penalties, yeah, they basically start at 5 p.m. Although I said, a grace period of a few minutes is not a big deal. But if you submit late at night on the Tuesday, then it's not reasonable to expect to be graded on the same scale as if everyone else submits by 5 p.m. Pete, does that make sense? Does that answer your question? And does that seem reasonable? Okay, thank you. That's a great question. I'm glad you raised the issue. So here's our schedule. We'll probably stick to it fairly closely. So we're just going to do kind of a high-level introduction today. Going to talk about controllers and views. I'm going to give out assignment 1A next week. It's basically just coming up with a project plan. So the start of class next week, we'll give it out. We want everybody to build a different project. So assignment 1A is you're going to submit to me a plan. This is the website I want to build using ASP.NET. And it's going to be different from anybody else's in the class. A, it makes it more interesting for us to mark. And B, you're less likely to copy a classmate's assignment if everybody's got to build a different project. Okay, so I'll give that out next week. And then Eduardo will take over on June 23rd. So you'll submit assignment 1B on June the 22nd. Okay, then we'll have our reading week, and Eduardo will do the back half of the class. So we'll probably stick fairly closely to this schedule as best we can. A lot of this stuff doesn't really apply because we're learning online. Okay, so that's our plan for the class. Does anybody have any questions at all about the assignments, the grading, the due dates, academic integrity rules, anything at all you'd like to know before we get started? Great question, Bugra. No, the final test will be all practical. So it'll be done in class time on the last Wednesday from 11 to 2. So you'll be given a an application to build using ASP.NET and SQL Server. And there will be many different versions of the exam, and each student will get a version at random. Okay, so not everybody will be doing the exact same version of the assignment. And of course, the exam is open book. So you have access to all of your files, any study notes, any of the material on Blackboard. You'll be allowed to reference any of that during the test. It's not a memory test. It's a programming test. We want you to program. Yeah, ultimately, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you can answer questions about ASP.NET. It matters if you can build web applications with it, right? That's the goal of the course. So that's what the final assessment is. Does anybody else have any other questions of any kind? The floor is open. Okay.
Hi.
Hi, go ahead.
Yeah, so about Visual Studio, which features we are going to use from 2019 that we cannot use, like maybe the community version?
I think the community has everything except I don't think it has the code coverage analysis for unit testing, which is a useful feature, but it's not required. So if you don't have that, it's not really it won't prevent you from doing all the coursework.
Oh, okay, got you. Thanks.
No problem. So yeah, if you have the community edition, that's okay. You don't have to have the enterprise. The enterprise edition is available in the Microsoft Azure portal, but you should be okay with the community edition if that's what you have. I will also strongly recommend you have a second monitor for live online classes. That way you can, why not VS Code? Because VS Code doesn't have the project templates, compiler, and built-in web server that Visual Studio has. So many of the features for working with ASP.NET are not supported in VS Code. So you will need the actual version of Visual Studio for this course. VS Code is not really designed for ASP.NET development. That's right. Thanks for that, Joanne. Yes, Dan, you can run the course on a Mac. The only issue with a Mac is you can't use SQL Server on a Mac. That's going to be your only challenge. Microsoft has an alternative called Azure Data Studio. It doesn't work. It's not a great product. In the past, what I have found is, again, yes, you can use Linux. You can run Visual Studio, but again, you can't run SQL Server Management Studio. So in the past, most Mac users I've found in this class eventually wind up using using Parallels and installing a Windows virtual machine. Some of the other things on Mac, for example, doing file uploads, they work quite differently on a Mac due to the file paths and things. So in my experience, most students who have taken this class, and I've taught this class many, many times, most of them, if they're not Windows users, wind up using a Windows virtual machine. So it's up to you. But based on past experience, it is a bit of a headache to run this class on Linux or Mac OS. So you're free to try it, but you may run into some issues, particularly when you start working with the database solution in a few weeks. Excellent questions. Okay, so we're going to jump into the week 1 folder, which you'll be able to see once you complete the integrity pledge. I just have to go in and accept your submissions for this. And then you can see the week 1 folder. So that's in weekly learning. So I'll just accept all these so everybody can see the folder, and I'll catch up to you in just a second. So in each folder, we've got a similar structure. So we've got our objectives of what we want to accomplish in the lesson. Any resources or activities, we'll get to this one in a few minutes. So if we've got lesson slides, we post them here for you to review. And then down at the bottom, we'll always have a checklist telling you what you should do before the next class. So we've gone over the syllabus together. Few of you have introduced yourself in the forum. You need to have completed the integrity pledge, make sure you've got Visual Studio installed and configured for ASP.NET development. We'll complete the whiteboard activity and do your coding demo we're going to do together. And then there's going to be a quiz on today's lesson, and you'll find that in the week 2 folder. So if we go and look at the week 2 folder, we've got our learning objectives, and you've got a quiz on today's lesson that'll be available at 2 p.m. today. So you have until 5 o'clock next Tuesday to do the quiz. It's just 5 multiple choice questions. Okay, so it's a way of doing a quick review. What did I learn this week in class before your next week? So each one of these quizzes is worth about 2%. So you'll have to go into the week 2 folder in order to complete the quiz once today's class is finished. Okay. Let's see. I'm just looking at the time. Normally, I like to take a break somewhere around 10 to the hour, but this activity is going to take us a little while. Might take us 15 minutes or so, 20 minutes. So I think what we'll do is we'll take a 10-minute break now, and we'll come back and dive into this activity at 5 to 12. Needy, good question. It's a single attempt for the quiz and the reason for this is there's only 5 questions. You have 15 minutes and they're open book. So you can look at Blackboard or look at your notes in order to find the answers. And you have 3 minutes per question. So that gives you enough time to actually go and find the answer to anything you're not sure about. Okay. But good question. Thanks for asking that one. Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording here. Let's take a 10-minute break and go stretch our legs. It's a good idea to get out of our chairs. We're sitting for a long time. So we will resume at 5 to 12. Okay, we'll see you back then.